For decades, one baseball series has stood above the rest, nor through hyper-realistic graphics or flashy presentation, but through pure gameplay, charm, and depth. It's a series that began all the way back in 1994 and turned a concept of simple, round-headed characters into legends, and transformed the sport of baseball into something both accessible and endlessly statistic. This is the story of one of Konami's longest-running video game series, and that is known as Power Pros, or Powerful Pro Yaku. The series began all the way back in 1994, and there's been a ton of entries ever since the 1994 game on Super Famicom. So in this video, I'm going to be doing a massive series deep dive of the entire Power Pro series. Not full detail, but at least summarize in a small way, I guess. But I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something interesting about Japanese baseball games that you probably never heard of. So this is a series deep dive of Power Pros. First released in 1994 by Konami, Power Pros, known in Japan as Jiyoku Powerful Pro Yaku 94, entered the scene at a time when sports games were still finding its identity. While other titles mostly focused on realism and simulation, Power Pros took a bold and unexpected approach, with its chibi-style characters, fast-paced gameplay, and intuitive controls. It looked simple on the surface, but beneath it was filled with precision, timing, and skill. What really set Power Pros 94 apart was how it was played. It was played with simplicity in mind. You just gotta aim a target right at the place where the pitcher is about to throw his ball, and where you, as a batter, can hopefully hit a home run. It's a very simple game, but however, over the years throughout the Super Famicom games, it would become a cultural phenomenon in Japan, spawning countless entries across multiple platforms, and would even get several revisions with updated rosters. It is so interesting nowadays that Power Pros is still relevant even to this day. The Super Famicom would get several titles in the Power Pros series, such as Power Pros 2 and Power Pros 3, which, speaking of Power Pros 3, introduced the Success Mode, which would go on to become a staple in every single Power Pros game to date. There's even a couple of updated versions that has some updated roster changes too. Despite most of the updated versions of Power Pros 1, 2, and 3 on the Super Famicom usually got updated versions on the PS1, it wouldn't be until the N64 when Power Pros 4 launched on the console in February of 1997, and it would go on to debut two of the most recognizable and one of the most important characters in the entire Power Pros franchise, Akio Yabe and Mamoru Ikari. Yabe Akio became a fan favorite, mostly because of his comedic personality and signature glasses. He often serves as both a companion to Power Pro-kun and the source of a sense of humor within Success Mode. In contrast, Mamoru Ikari represents the rival archetype who is very serious, driven, and fiercely competitive. This makes Power Pros different compared to other baseball games by having a character that has a massive sense of humor like a comic relief and an intense rival, kind of like you see in anime. And this would fill in the larger world with relationships, challenges, and personal growth. Power Pros would eventually get a couple more entries on the N64, including Power Pros 5 and Power Pros 6, and a couple of revisions as well, too. After the release of many of the N64 Power Pros games, as well as the releases of the two Power Pro-kun Pocket games, as well as Power Pros on Dreamcast, Konami were ready to enter the next biggest chapter in Power Pros history. With the arrival of the 6th generation of consoles, the gaming landscape was changing faster than ever. With new hardware meant new possibilities, better graphics, smoother performance, and more better experiences. And as the PS2 burst onto the scene, Konami knew they cannot afford to wait, so they have to get a game ready for the PS2. In July of 2000, Power Pro 7 was released for the PS2, marking the series' first true transition to the next generation. While it serves as a continuation of the N64 entries in terms of gameplay and structure, it also introduced one of the most important changes in the history of the franchise, a new visual style. If you can see on the cover and other various artworks for the game after the release of Power Pro 7, the character models were redefined, cleaner, and more expressive, with establishing the modern look of what Power Pros would be like today. It kind of shows a massive change in the history of Power Pros. But Power Pro 7 didn't just evolve visually, it also expanded the world with its characters, including the debut of Aoi Hayakawa, who would become a groundbreaking addition to the series as she was one of the first female characters to be in the Power Pros franchise. As the PS2 era progressed, Power Pros continued to get tons of updated versions for the PS1, as well as continuing its success with the Power Pro-kun Pocket series on the GBA. Throughout most of the PS2 generation, starting with Power Pros 9, Konami would also bring not only Power Pros 9 to the PS2, but also cross-release it also to the GameCube. And from Power Pros 9 all the way to Power Pros 13, I'm thinking, it would be released on both PS2 and GameCube, which would finally give the Nintendo fans a taste of what the Power Pros during the 6th generation would be like. At this point in time, Power Pros has become a cultural phenomenon in Japan, but overseas it was mostly largely unknown. Like, seriously, like nobody knew back then. That would begin to change with the release of MLB Power Pros in 2007 and its follow-up, MLB Power Pros 2008, both released for the Wii. They were known in Japan as Powerful Pro Major League 2 and 3 respectively. And despite these titles receiving generally positive reception and leading tons of nostalgia back in the day, MLB Power Pros and its sequel to Power Pros 2008 would sadly become commercial failures in the West, mostly because of the lack of interest in the art style outside the realistic sports games featuring baseball games that are usually not really that well received. But despite this, Power Pros continued to dominate in Japan, and would help make a brand new era for Power Pros going forward. Since the release of Power Pros 15, Konami decided to make a major decision and decided to rename every single Power Pros game from now on not after a number like, let's say, Power Pros 16 or 17, but rather Power Pros 2009 and 2010 respectively. And which is why in 2009 we got Power Pros 2009 released for PS2, which would continue the year in the name ever since then. However, as the 7th generation continued into the early 2010s, the gaming landscape had began to change in unexpected ways. By Power Pros 2010 released for the PS3, through Power Pros 2014, the series became primarily focused on Sony platforms, focusing on the PS3 and PSP and PS3, while also focusing on the PS Vita later on. This marked a noticeable departure from the earlier generations where Nintendo platforms played a significant role in the franchise's history. One of the key reasons for this is mostly because of Nintendo's brand new Wii U console. The Wii U scared several third-party developers, including Konami, which is why many changed or shift to much more popular PS4, which is why one of the most popular entries in the Power Pro series would become Power Pros 2016, which would also be the first Power Pros game to be released for PS4 and PS3, and would go on to become a popular game and one of the most popular games in the franchise, as well as being one of the first to be quote-unquote modern HD in my opinion. Power Pro 2016 also showcased more enhanced visuals, a much better success mode, and even more content that makes it have much more deep mechanics. But after years of being primarily associated with Sony platforms, the series made a long-awaited return to Nintendo home consoles, starting with Power Pros 2020, released for both PS4 and Nintendo Switch. This would be for the first time since Power Pros 15 in 2008 that a Power Pros game would be released for a Nintendo system. After the release of Power Pros 2022, Konami decided to bring the Power Pros series to the West another shot for the second time. This would be WBSC eBaseball Power Pros, a $1 game off the Nintendo eShop where everyone around the world can play for a new generation of players. WBSC eBaseball Power Pros did extremely well and is often considered to have a lot of people having nostalgia with the original MLB Power Pros in 2007 and 08. The game would go on to become critically successful and would become a jaw-dropping moment when it was first unveiled during a 2023 Nintendo Direct from Konami. Power Pros was ready to become a brand new series to the West, but however, this would only be the only time we will probably ever see Power Pros be localized over to the West until probably to the future years, like in say the 2030s or 2040s. But however, they continued to go on. And then, the 30th anniversary happened. In 2024, the Power Pro series has just hit and celebrating its 30th anniversary. And to celebrate, they released Power Pros 2024-25, which would go on to have a famous cover of Power Pro Kunin, a good-looking, gritty art style. But however, things all have to come down to an end. In January, Konami announced that they will be delisting eBaseball Power Pros, at least WBSC, off the eShop, and that the online service will shut down by the end of March that year. Now, today, WBSC eBaseball Power Pros has now went off the surface of the earth, and now looks like eBaseball Power Pros is going to be from now on just going to be stuck in Japan. But that's okay, because we can all import it and enjoy it for ourselves. And you may be wondering, how did I first got into Power Pros for the first time? Well, since I was a big fan of Goemon, I know that Konami would deliver better, more games kind of like Castlevania and Goemon, but I realized that Power Pros, what I heard online, is considered by many to be the best baseball game ever imagined. At first, I didn't believe at first, but when I played it, oh my goodness, I was so wrong, because Power Pros is so amazing. I mean, think about it. It has a good success mode, excellent controls, and I was just so excited on what the next Power Pros entry was going to be, especially after Power Pros 2024-25. And then, the trailer dropped.
Stand up now, we're ready now. Go stand up now, we're ready now. Oh, said. Kansei ga sora yurasu. Stand up now, we're ready now. Go stand up now, we're ready now. Oh, said. Sono seri mirai wo.
In February, shortly after the Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase that year in February of 2026, Konami have unveiled the opening movie for Power Pros 2026-27, and man, I was so hyped. The music was just fantastic. It was already giving myself hyped up, and I'm so excited for what the future of Power Pros is going to give us. And honestly, I can't wait on what Konami is going to deliver. Konami always has delivered excellent, high-quality games, and since the Switch 2 is lacking that many good first-party offerings from Nintendo, I think Capcom and Konami and many other third parties have a good chance on making the Switch 2 carry its legs. To wrap this video up, I have to be honest that Power Pros really changed my opinions on how baseball video games can be. Even though many of the baseball games nowadays that we have, like video game wise, are all pretty much slop from EA, I think Konami are probably the only company that I can believe that makes some of the best high-quality baseball video games and soccer games like International Superstar Soccer 64, which I love, making good sports games that everyone can enjoy. And honestly, I am so excited for the release of Power Pros 2026-27 this June. I may pick it up by importing it, but I may have to save up my money though, I guess. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching this sort of deep dive / my beginnings with Power Pros. I hope you guys learned something new about this franchise, or for those who are getting into the first time, I highly recommend you play these games. And if you have not subscribed to the channel already, make sure to like, comment what you thought about it, and of course, subscribe to the Lucatak channel. My name is Lucas, and thank you so much for watching this video. And remember, don't hit a strikeout, and always go for the grand slam. Thank you.